And the experts just keep coming here at the Application Architecture Summit. This is the session for OutSystems, and let me welcome back Mike Josephson, Solution Architect at OutSystems. Mike, welcome.
Thanks, Vance. Pleasure to be here today.
You know, we're really glad to have Mike with us this morning. He is responsible for analyzing business challenges in the context of modern app development. He's done a lot of that homework for us this morning. He's going to give us a session about architect multi-channel apps and workflows without limits. We all know the demand for new apps continues to outstrip developer capacity to deliver them, and this is nowhere more acute than with the push for omni-channel apps, process flows, and even case management. And if you're feeling this pain too, this session is for you. Mike's session is going to tackle how we can get these multi-channel apps and workflows done the way business wants them to do without running into a lot of hassle about testing, coordination to applications to the back-end integration, and others of the gnarly tasks that can actually delay an application. He's also going to tell us a little bit about the OutSystems approach to application architecture and how its particular low-code platform brings pre-built components, automation, and even a little AI/ML to these types of projects. So with all that, I want to turn to Mike, but before I do, a quick reminder. You can download his slides. I highly recommend you do. They're available by just hitting that big red button under the view screen. You'll also see some other links that Mike and his team have put together for us. They're available too without registration. You did that to join us this morning. And we love to let you communicate with our speakers, so to connect with Mike, just type in that submit a question box. So with all that, Mike, it's time for me to hand it to you. Tell us about architecting multi-channel apps and workflows without limits.
Excellent. It's my real pleasure to be here. Just to set a little context before I jump into it, I'm really going to approach this presentation in an iterative manner. I'm going to provide a little bit of context on low-code and OutSystems, and then I'm going to delve into multi-channel orchestration and integration, kind of addressing the key areas in which you might architect or modularize your application to address your application needs, and then delve specifically into the orchestration layer of it and get an opportunity to present to you some really cool new features that are coming out with OutSystems. Actually, you're going to be the first to hear about it outside of our big Next Step event. So with that said, let me jump right into it. So when you really look at it, low code is an ever-growing and burgeoning area. In fact, so much so that Gartner projects that 65% of all software development will include elements of low code within that moving forward, starting as soon as 2024. So it's ever growing, it's growing leaps and bounds, and there's really a reason behind that. When you look at development, right now it is one of the most manual industries out there. Everything's hand-tailored and crafted, but there really is a need for finding a way to automate that, finding a way to get out of the weeds of those lines of code and focus more on the business object layer, something that's more visual, that's more fast, that you can tangibly touch the application that you're looking to build much faster. And at OutSystems, we provide that with our low-code platform. And how we're able to do that is effectively around taking a look at our ecosystem of clients. We have 1,000 clients across 22 different industries. And in that, we've been able to find different commonalities within the applications that they build out. This can be everything from the UI widgets that you use within the actual development itself, to the structure and the format of the screens, to the business logic layer, to those integrations. And in all elements of that development lifecycle, we really look to speed up the development and allow you to address your business needs faster and really work down that ever-growing backlog of application development requirements. From a perspective too of the use cases that you can address with OutSystems and low code, there really is a variety of different use cases. And I really like to bring this up because a lot of people think of low code as a cookie cutter solution, something that, yeah, you can handle it. It's just one of those rapid application development platforms, but it can't address the core needs of a company. But actually, due to the focus of R&D and the focus of the way in which we've moved our product, we're actually able to span the gamut in terms of different key needs from our client base. That can be anything from B2C type applications, things that may be deployed to your app store, Google, to iOS, native mobile applications, things that can be run in a disconnected manner, something that maybe you have somebody has a tablet, they need an application that can communicate with your core systems, be able to provide real-time information to that user, and they're not stuck necessarily in front of a browser in order to necessarily address their particular needs. That said, too, we also are able to address those core digital operations type use cases, those applications that you're currently running out of Excel. I'm so surprised that as I still go to the gamut of companies out there, how many companies still run their business processes in Excel. In fact, sometimes they're still running business critical operations in Excel. But that said, with OutSystems, due to the nature of our overall architecture, we can actually scale to your specific needs. So whether you have a use case of 100 people to a broad-based application portfolio with millions of users, we can scale to your specific needs and address both mission critical applications and digital core systems, systems that are absolutely critical for business efficiency, business efficacy. Now, to kind of take a look at it, how does OutSystems do that? Seems like a whole list of things to accomplish. How can we address each of those different use cases? The way that I like to look at it, and I think something that I've been able to see having been able to work with a variety of different clients that I have across the many different industries that we work in, is I really like to break down an application architecture into key tiers. So you've got your engagement layer. So that's the way in which somebody is interacting with the application. Maybe through a mobile phone, maybe through a desktop application or a browser base. From there, there's certain business logic that runs. So this could be anything from workflows to business rules. Then you also have the integration layer where you're effectively working with core systems of record, maybe key databases or key systems that are absolutely important to the business, and you have to use those within the underlying logic that you have. Now, one of the real benefits of low code is really around being a forward-thinking approach to development. And by that, it's the ability to agilely respond to the needs of your business. So as new engagement methods become available, right? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you wouldn't even necessarily have thought that mobile phones would be something that would be critically important to a business, but now they are. Now with the advent of new ways in which people are engaging with companies, they have to have a solution that allows them to be forward thinking. So for instance, having a chatbot integration, Alexa, or watch-based integrations. There's a variety. We have VR. We have clients now that are building VR apps. So there's a lot of ways in which people are looking to engage with the consumers of the application. And with low code, you can agilely pivot based on your specific needs. So for instance, if you need to add in a new engagement method, you can very easily do that. Now, when we take it down a layer and we look at the orchestration and integration layer, there's a lot of needs we commonly see, right? The ability to run some workflow. I'm actually going to do a deep dive into that today. So I'm going to show you some demos of how we handle that in OutSystems. I want to kind of show some standard use cases that come up with OutSystems and what I've seen across our overall portfolio of OutSystems user. They may need to find information related to the state of a workflow. Where is the case status? They may need to run some business logic, maybe some approvals, that type of thing. Having delegation, so somebody goes on vacation and you ultimately need to pass that activity or task to somebody else, and an audit trail to understand what effectively is going on. And what better way to handle that but with pre-built components that allow you to rapidly incorporate that functionality into your application. Why reinvent the wheel if something's already made there to do it? So in so doing, you speed up that development process. You get a higher quality result because you're taking advantage of the lessons learned across a gamut of a client base. Now, furthermore, when we start looking at that kind of core layer in the integration, OutSystems supports REST and SOAP-based web services, SAP BAPIs. We have a Forge community of 2,900 different components that can be downloaded and incorporated into your underlying application. But we also are malleable to meet your enterprise needs. So for instance, if you have an API layer, such as, let's say, a MuleSoft or a Workato, we can easily incorporate that. Or even an RPA engine. Maybe you've got a green screen application, you want to put a new UI, UX on top of it. Well, we can absolutely come up with ways to modularize your application, create a pixel perfect layer on top of it in a manner that kind of fits with your enterprise tool set. So when I like to look at it from kind of that high level, OutSystems supports the ability to create pixel perfect UIs, has a robust orchestration engine, and I'm going to delve deep into that today, as well as the ability to integrate with these core enterprise systems, or frankly speaking, you can kind of mix and match the different capabilities that you want. So if you want the orchestration and UI layer, but you want to keep your system of record and your integration layer, we can absolutely support that. So we're very malleable to your specific needs. So it allows us a bit of flexibility in terms of being able to address the broad set of use cases that you may have with the platform itself. And so as much as slides are great, I personally really like jumping into demos. I think they are a really good way to conceptualize what you can do with the platform itself. And so in what I'm going to do at this case is I'm going to pull up Service Studio. Service Studio is where the core of the development takes place. What you'll find here is our development really segmented into 4 key areas. We break it into process-based development, interface development, logic development, and the data structures that you're using within the applications itself. And we do this in a visual manner. So for instance, when it comes down to the process development, what you'll notice here is I've got context-specific low-code widgets. So effectively, if I want to incorporate a human activity into my application, an email, maybe some automated logic where I'm working with a external system, maybe I want to launch off a child process or wait for some information to be provided. What you'll find is with the platform, you have the full flexibility of being able to address these specific needs how you need. In fact, when you look at it, some of the most common use cases that you're going to run into from a workflow perspective can be built through low code within OutSystems. So we can do multiple conditional analysis, conditional driven or event driven starts. Maybe you get some information in and you want that to spawn off a process. You can very easily do that. You can have multiple processes that run in parallel together, as well as a very common use case, which is a requester, approver, rejector workflow. All very common, all done all the time with OutSystems itself. Now, I think this is really important, but to kind of bring this back to the different layers that I mentioned, with OutSystems, we can integrate with those core systems. So I can pull in external database tables. I can integrate with my SOAP or REST-based web services, my SAP BAPIs. That said, maybe what I want to do is I want to build out a screen real quickly. What I can do is I can pull in some data through whatever my external data source is. In this case, I'm just going to pull in something real quickly from Excel, just to give you a perspective of how I can use this functionality within OutSystems itself. I'm going to go ahead and import this. It analyzes the underlying data source, pulls in the data, analyzes the underlying structure to change the data types accordingly. And maybe what I want to do here is what I want to have is a pixel perfect look and feel. So what I can do is say drag and drop my customer table here. It automatically creates that UI. One thing that I'm going to commonly come back to throughout the course of this conversation is really around accelerating development and doing that through predictive development. So by understanding how you're using our Service Studio, OutSystems is effectively using accelerators to create these look and feels for you. So you don't have to go through the process of figuring out what all this logic is. OutSystems is absolutely doing that for you. In fact, even more and above these kind of initial accelerators here, we have screen templates, which allow for that high quality look and feel. So when I talk about that engagement layer, OutSystems has built-in accelerators to speed up the development related to that. Now, that said, the real focus of this is really around some of our functionality related to workflow. And I really want to highlight some of our new features and functionality that are coming into the platform, specifically around our case management framework. But before I get to that, I want to talk a little bit about development. What you saw there in Service Studio, a lot of times people think of that as more of up the alley of a senior developer, full stack developer, maybe a part-time developer who's doing some development but doing some things on the side as well, or maybe even a business analyst. But when you really look at it in terms of the ecosystem within an organization, your full stack developers are they're your ninjas, but they are so in demand. And unfortunately, those demands make it so it's difficult to get their time. And you may also have some part-time developers, maybe even some more than your senior developers, junior developers, that type, who are proficient in development, can very easily pick up development, can kind of run them with a different gamut of programming languages that you have out there or low-code platforms. But ultimately, you're still unable to meet the ever-growing needs of the business. And in that case, it's really important to be able to harness the broader brain trust within the organization. So those business analysts and those citizen developers, those individuals that have an idea that they really want to kind of run with. And I'll give you an example of that. We have a client we've been working with in the healthcare industry, and a nurse came up with an idea of how to manage a part of their business more efficiently. And they kind of came on to OutSystems, and then they were able to fundamentally build something simple and easy, but really allowed them to save time for people that were looking to come to their location and go through that entire process there itself. How we're able to address this, when you look at Service Studio, a lot of times people think of that kind of falls really more in that senior part-time developer, maybe the BA piece. But what OutSystems has done is they've heard a lot of feedback from our client base, and they said, hey, look, we're really looking for a way in which we can allow more people to help us to address that backlog, to take their ideas to fruition. And in that case, what we've done is we've come up with our case management framework. This is something that's really focused in on that citizen developer, that BA that has a really great idea, that's really knowledgeable on the underlying needs of the organization, but maybe not quite as proficient from a technical standpoint, right? So OutSystems has developed this framework to provide a ability to build applications in a thoughtful manner, harnessing the knowledge and understanding of OutSystems to do that in an effective manner, monitoring those applications to understand how they're performing, as well as where there may be some issues, and ultimately reporting on top of those. And some of the initial accelerators that we have created in relation to the case management framework is really around key elements that we commonly see. So these are things that, as we've gone out to our client base, they said, hey, you know what? It would be really good if you had built-in delegation, so that fundamentally, if somebody goes on vacation, you can just take care of it. Yeah, you could rapidly build that in OutSystems, but hey, why reinvent the wheel if ultimately you can have a reusable object or component that allows you to harness that with minimal effort? Business rules, it's so common to have the needs for approvals based on certain financial amounts, maybe up to $100 or $1,000, or, we have some clients that have specific business rules up to like $1 million. Having ways and frameworks in which you can accelerate the development of that is absolutely critical, as well as built-in notifications. So why would you want to go through the hassle of creating those elements when you could harness the brain trust of the broader community itself, as well as auditing, which ultimately is always a very critical part, understanding how things have changed. All of these are key parts of the case management framework. And I'd like to actually do a quick demonstration of this so you can see it live. Actually, it's gonna, as I mentioned, this is gonna be the first time we've shown this outside of our next step. So I'm very excited to get the opportunity to show this to you today. So think of Workflow Builder as really encapsulating specific workflows related to certain activities. So could be expense approvals, it could be really a variety of different key needs, onboarding, travel requests, employee performance, that type of thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually switch over to our Workflow Builder. Within the Workflow Builder, I really have a lot of flexibility as to what I'm looking to build out. So I can go ahead and select here. And at this point, I can have a high level opportunity to select the different available options. Now, this is kind of the initial starting point. One of the things that I really like about OutSystems is that we work in an agile manner, such that what you see here is wonderful, but I'm very excited to see what's going to be here in 6 months and 12 months, because what we like to do is we like to build a strong framework as a starting point and then add in additional functionality as we move along. So this is a really great place to start. And in this case, I'll go through the process of actually building one out here. What I think I'm going to do here is an expense review type application. Maybe somebody's submitting some information related to an expense, such as buying some sort of equipment or going out to a meal with a customer, and they effectively want to get reimbursed with that. I'm going to select my app name. I'm going to put an icon there. It's going to change kind of the look and the feel accordingly of the application. Now, what's really cool here is fundamentally OutSystems is starting with a framework to begin with, okay? Likely I'm going to have a submittal form in that form, what are the things that I'd like to include, right? Right now I've got a title, a date, description, a project ID. You know what? I'm definitely going to want an amount, definitely going to want a category here. When you look at it, OutSystems tries to do predictive development in terms of giving you suggestions as to what you might need in relation to this application based on looking at kind of the broad gamut of applications that have been built on OutSystems. Now I want to change this information here. Maybe I want to have this as a service ID. I'm going to go ahead and save that. You'll notice too, another area of predictive development is around type for the field that is being created on the form. This drop-down list was actually specified just by knowing it was a category, and I can ultimately incorporate different options here. I can say I want to have a travel, maybe I want to have equipment, maybe I want to have meals, something along the lines of that. And I can have this as an available option when I'm looking to submit my expense. Now I'm going to go to the statuses. What you'll notice here is what I've got is a list of the available statuses. So this is going to definitely work for me in this circumstance, but hey, I've got the option of adding some additional ones if I want. You'll also see that it's created kind of an initial workflow for me in a pretty easily digestible manner. It's going to have a form to submit, it's going to have a form to review, and an ability to approve or reject that effectively. It's quite nice. Now, what I want to do here is I don't want to just always go to somebody to review. What would make a little more sense is maybe have it review in certain circumstances, and then other times I'll just kind of automatically approve it. So if I go here to the submit form, what I'm going to do is, hey, when I have a submitted state, what I might want to do is I want to check the amount of the submitted item. If it's under, let's say, I don't know, $100, I want to just approve it, because you know what? There's just really no point in taking a look at it at that point. And if it is above that, probably is really worth me taking a look at. So what I want to do is I want to put this into a review state. And you can see interactively how my workflow is actually updating based on what I'm doing here. So I can go ahead and save this, and you'll notice that I actually have pretty good workflow, pretty easy and intuitive to understand. And what I want to do now is I really want to publish it. And so another really great part of the platform here is what it's doing is it's actually taking the logic, that business logic layer, and it's converting it into a native application that I can subsequently use. But it's using the best practices and understanding of the platform to generate it in a manner that really meets your specific requirements. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a look at a couple of the different screens that were created or related to this. I'm going to go ahead and open this case here. It's going to bring me to a login screen, which I will log into. From here, I'm going to have a list of all of the available requests. So it actually created this initial screen here. I can go ahead and create a new request. I can enter some information related to this. So maybe I had a meal with customer. I'm going to put that category under meal. I'm going to put in an amount of, let's say, $80. A nice lunch with somebody. Can see which items are required and which ones aren't. I can add in some attachments if I want, and then I can go ahead and put in that request. Now, let's say I want to put in another one here. Maybe I'm going to get a new laptop. That in there, I can switch the category to equipment. I can put this as, it's a pretty expensive laptop. We're going to put it at $1,500, put the date here, can put some different attachments here if I want, and then create that expense report. Now, I can go to my request list, and what you're going to see is a couple things here. First of all, my meal with customer here was approved. So I can click on this. You'll see some variety of pieces of information on this, the overall audit trail for it, whether there was any notes there, all done in an automated manner. And I can also see that this particular laptop, given the size of the amount, is still actually waiting for a review. And it can also be reassigned based on appropriate configuration. So really, if you look at what was done in about 5 minutes there, it's pretty impressive. We created a variety of different screens. We created workflow. We created descriptions related to certain elements of it, an audit trail related to it, a filterable list. I mean, it's pretty impressive what you can do within just 5-10 minutes of Workflow Builder. Imagine if you've worked with it for quite a while, you know the intricacies of it, you could really address some key critical requirements for the business very rapidly. And that really gets to the heart of using accelerators to speed up the development and why low code is becoming such an important aspect in the broader enterprise development ecosystem. Thank you so much for your time today. It was really my pleasure. And that concludes my formal presentation here. Let me hear from Vance if there's any questions that he might have that I can answer related to this.
Mike, fantastic session. I think that you really said it well when we talk about high-level discussion of application architecture and then see it really in action. It really does enrich all the other slides and points that you were making. Really great session.
Excellent. Thank you.
You know, Mike, so much power in these low-code approaches and OutSystems. You've given a lot of thought to the granularity that often goes with architecture, which is a lot of the concerns that our audience will have. I wonder if you can give us a sense when you commiserate with customers about how the best way is to deploy these kind of low-code solutions, how they marry them with their existing app architecture or their traditional developer flows. How does OutSystems platform work into a traditional enterprise app environment?
I love that question. It's something that really commonly comes up really in most of the conversations I have with clients. Everybody has a slightly different way in which they do app development. And because of that, OutSystems has to be very malleable, both in relation to how you can develop with it, but also in terms of some of the key DevOps capabilities of the platform itself. So for instance, we have a lot of DevOps capabilities built into the platform itself. As you saw in the demonstration, we actually do a one-click publish. It actually generates the native code, deploys it across the front-end servers, and does all that for you. But at the same time, within a enterprise ecosystem, it's very common to have different tools or processes that you effectively use. And in that regards, we have APIs, we have different ways to integrate with these other external systems in a manner that can fit very nicely into your application development lifecycle. So we try to augment and speed up where we can, and then also integrate and work with whatever you have there already.
Oh, fantastic. So you've given this a lot of thought, not only from the traditional template view, as you did in the workflow builder, but really from the architect's point of view is, okay, once I have this great application and the artifacts that go with it, what happens then?
With OutSystems, it's really important to have the appropriate guardrails in terms of development. So as much as you can very easily and rapidly create a good application, it's important to be conscientious of the ability to also subsequently handle and manage the application lifecycle appropriately and in relation to your overall enterprise standards. So what we tend to recommend is that as you create these applications, you will put them into that tiered architecture and infrastructure such that you can deploy it into your development environment, do the testing, move it to your associated QA environment, do either your automated testing as you want, or follow the different processes and procedures that you have to ensure that it's well developed and thoughtfully laid out and appropriately meets your enterprise class standards.
Yeah, fantastic, fantastic. In fact, let's get into some of the productivity wins that you are giving to customers here. Here's an application type question. What type of applications can we build for case management? And it appeared that OutSystems had pre-built workflows, but is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an area I'm particularly excited about because much like with our screen templates, which came out about a year ago, we kind of come out with an initial starting point. In this, you're going to have things like expense management, a lot of common needs built into the platform itself. And what's really nice and slick about this is it's going to be in a iterative manner such that as time progresses, what you see here is going to increase. So we're going to have more than just vacation approval and timesheet management. It's going to take the feedback that we hear from our client base and then start incorporating additional workflows and applications that can be kind of rapidly built through the workflow builder. So I'm very excited to see how this is used out in the wild, so to speak. And I'm very excited to also hear feedback because as OutSystems really prides itself in listening to our client base and trying to address their needs. So as more and more people use this, we're going to get some feedback and say, hey, you know what, here's a really common use case. We're going to kind of aggregate that across our broader client base and then start building these additional accelerators that will allow you even more value from this functionality.
Yeah, and that accelerator attention that you've given in OutSystems really does seem to bridge that gap between the skilled developer you talked about, as well as enabling that less skilled, or I guess what the industry calls the citizen developer. Mike, can you talk a little bit about what went into those accelerators? Because it seems like there's not only technology, but you've got some kind of design thinking based on customer adoption.
Absolutely. So one of the really nice parts of OutSystems is our ability to both speak to our client base as well as work with our specialists in UI, in design, in development. And so as we create these accelerators, we're able to meet industry best standards. We're able to incorporate the functionality that our clients are asking for. So we really speak to a gamut of them before we even develop this, so that we're clear that these accelerators are able to address the core needs. Now, that said, one of the things I also like about OutSystems is accelerators are always a starting point for development, but that doesn't need to be the final development. That if there are things that you need to tweak, you need to change, you can subsequently bring that back into your development team and take it and run with it, right? Ultimately, the beauty of it is it gives you kind of a variety of different ways in which you can address it, and one in which you have the control of and you can tweak to your specific needs and really get into the granular details of it as you need. If, for instance, the accelerator doesn't meet all of the requirements that you have. That said, the beauty of it is you get to leverage the 1,000 customers that we've polled to get this as a starting point for our development related to this particular functionality.
You know, Mike, talking about how the ease of use is really attractive to a lot of your customers, question here about introducing OutSystems into a customer base. And it simply says, I'm concerned about rolling out an app development tool set, such as OutSystems, to our large set of users in the company. How does OutSystems suggest that we begin to introduce the platform, and how do you ensure quality?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and something that we so commonly hear across our client base. Low code is a transformative way of addressing application development. And part of the journey of that is really around, hey, what are the technologies that I have available? Who do I want to bring on board in relation to this? How do I want to drive this business transformation through this technology? And there's a variety of ways in which we address that. From a people and process perspective, we have the core account teams that we work with you on, right? You've got your account executive, you've got your solution architects like me who sit there, help you conceptualize which are the best cases for you to start with, where you might want to build your foundational experience with OutSystems, and how you might want to scale that to a center of excellence or a digital factory. And in relation to that too, we have customer success managers, and we have a variety of different technical specialists that are really there to help and support you and guide you through that. And even more so, beyond just the available resources we have internally to help you, we also have a really solid product that makes really good, well-structured applications that we have them fits into the development lifecycle, both from a perspective of going from your development to your production, appropriately testing that, as well as we thoroughly test these accelerators to ensure that when you deploy an application using them, you're going to have industry standard code, you're going to have really strong, hardened, enterprise-grade applications.
And your workflow demo, Mike, really did hit that right on the head. I wonder, do you use the portal like that? I know it's early days in the release, but do you anticipate that that's going to be one way to guide architects on the best way to deploy OutSystems to their non-technical staff especially?
I really believe that the direction of moving development to a business analyst, to a citizen developer, to at least ideate on and develop a framework which a developer can subsequently take to fruition is going to be an ever-growing part of the application development lifecycle. You just hear it all throughout the ecosystem. Everybody is saying, well, what's your strategy here for that? And I really believe that our workflow builder, we also have an experience builder that's coming out, that are really tailored for the BA, the citizen developer, to ideate. It's about kind of harnessing that power and empowering the individuals within the organization to help you get there. And I really strongly believe that Workflow Builder, Experience Builder, and our case management framework are going to be key elements of our strategy for development moving forward. Really, when you actually can create something and touch it, I think that's a true power of low code that's very difficult to get in high code, because it's so much slower. But when you can create an application and you can touch it so quickly, it's really a powerful experience.
I agree. And this session has been powerful too, Mike. But before you go, I've got a couple of comments and questions here. How could folks go in depth or hands-on with OutSystems? I know you've got some cloud-based capabilities too. Are there free trials or sandboxes that you could introduce to our attendees?
Absolutely. I highly recommend it. Actually, one of the reasons I came to OutSystems was the fact that I could spend time with the platform, and I really appreciated the approach that they took to application development. Go to outsystems.com. Right there, you're able to sign up to use our personal environment. From there, you have full access to all of our training, our courses, a bunch of case studies, a wealth of information on OutSystems. And I really do highly recommend spending some time with it, because it's truly a powerful technology.
Fantastic. Mike Josephson, Solution Architect at OutSystems. Thanks very much for a really great session. I mean, a great look at the state of application architecture trends here in 2020, as well as how you can make it easy for the architect to get some accelerators going for the overtaxed developer as well as the non-skilled folks, and get them all working together. Really, really great picture.
Vince and everybody, thank you so much for your time today. I really, really appreciate it.
Our pleasure, for sure. Our pleasure. And just a quick reminder, many resources you should take a look at. Again, the slides from Mike are available. Just click that big red button. Also, some other terrific assets take you through the OutSystems architecture, as how well it can be inserted into both your traditional workflow as well as your application architecture. And a quick reminder, the slides available here will have a list of some links that will take you to some other terrific OutSystems resources right on their website. Download Mike's slides, and these links will be live. Thanks again, everyone.